Buenos dias, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the In Between Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I'm Leah.
And today we have Derek Lacey. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks.
How are things going? I know you were stuck in traffic, or construction traffic, rather.
Traffic in Concan.
We don't have traffic out here in Concan, but construction traffic, you had some trouble getting here. But
yeah, I'm a little spoiled. I lived in Los Angeles for 18 years and dealt with traffic every single day, on the 405 going to work. And I move out here and it's just a nice luxury. Yeah, you get spoiled. And so I get a little fussy when I end up in traffic. I'm like, wait, what? This wasn't on the brochure. This is not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But,
so you lived in California before moving out here?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I moved to Los Angeles in 2000. Yeah.
The year 2000.
Year 2000.
Then, so you originally from Texas?
Yeah, I'm from Laredo.
Okay.
Down on the border.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm from Dilley.
Oh, okay.
Just north of the border.
I mean, I've driven past Dilley all my life.
On your way to San Antonio.
On my way to San Antonio. I went to college in San Antonio at UTSA. But of course, growing up in Laredo, I mean, it's like you live in San Antonio, you watch their news and you go there for school clothes and you fly out of there for when you vacation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But always, and I can't even say that I've been in Dilley. Like
you go through it. Nobody.
I mean, there's Divine and there's Pearsall.
Yeah.
And I've stopped in both of those places for food. But is there a restaurant in Dilley that's notable?
There's a couple. I mean, not notable, but there's a couple restaurants.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing that you're missing.
Nothing to write home for. Yeah.
No, unless you live there and you grew up eating there, then But
we have different opinions on the food. He thinks anything like south of Lytle is not good Mexican food. I'm like, we're closer to the border. What are you talking about?
Well, I think it's because it's Tex-Mex that I like, that I'm partial to, and that's what it's different. It's amazing how many different variations of Tex-Mex and authentic Mexican food there are. I mean, there's all kinds of variations of it, and
so
we could go down a rabbit hole.
You know what? We should schedule another podcast for that.
Just to talk about.
Yeah, but I agree with them. I'm being from Laredo, it's like you get really competitive about Mexican food, and then moving to LA, and then I don't think I can't think of one Mexican meal in LA that I'm fond of. It just never happened for me because I was holding on to this like subconscious memory in my body that I'm trying to repeat. And it's just like it was more about my stubbornness about like what I think Mexican food is.
Yeah, right?
It's all good. It's all good.
So we totally skipped over who you are and what you do.
Here.
Let's go back. Let's go back to that.
Well, we'll get to that. So why don't you tell us who is Derek Lacey?
Ooh.
What do you do?
Yeah, I'm on that journey to find out, right, who is Derek Lacey. But at the core of it, and why I'm here is I'm somebody who suffered for many decades with insomnia, and apparently it's my journey to share with people what I've learned in the process of figuring out how to sleep again, and now really taking it to another level of making sense of it physically and emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, any kind of way that a human being can access and interpret what it means to sleep consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously. So that's my mission right now is helping people transform, but do it in a way that makes sense to them, but also to their entire body and spirit.
And so that led you, your own experience led you to doing that. And looking back, I guess now, or you probably realize at the time was, and this can be different for everyone, but what was it for you that was leading you to, is it all those things you mentioned, the physical, the spiritual part that were contributing to your experiences of not being able to sleep? No.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that? What was it that you came?
Yeah.
If you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely comfortable. That's why I'm here. And yeah, when you break it down, like I have an answer for each, and possible reasons for each. But even with all that said, I still don't. You can't give one, definitive answer of why it happened, and that's part of the concepts in what I teach is really how sleep is available to you moving forward, no matter what happened, no matter what your reason was. But when I started sleeping better as an adult, which was about 8 years ago, I made some really simple changes that made a big difference, because I was undoing several years of bad habits that were started by my original experiences of insomnia and sleepless nights. But little things like I stopped eating after 10 o'clock. And I was really committed to that. I was bartending at the time. And so I would have to take a meal with me, and if it was really busy, I'd like fake a bathroom break and just because it was really uncomfortable, especially as somebody who if you're an insomniac, you kind of get used to bypassing, and which is like looking for some kind of stimulation or input, right, so that you don't have to sit with certain feelings. I'm like, the one thing I do not want to be is hungry and not satisfying that urge. So, and I was really committed to that. And I learned some things what happened for me is I made this transition. I was a bartender, and I was pursuing music for several years, and then I kind of gave up on that. I'm like, all right, this isn't going to happen. And I was bartending to support the music and also to support my sleep, because it was just easier to not have to wake up. And so then I was like, all right, I need a career. I don't know what I'm doing with the rest of my life right now. I'm just kind of spinning my wheels. And so I got into health coaching. And in this health coaching program that I was taking, I learned a lot about just the basics of, and it was sort of like more geared toward nutrition and weight loss and transformation in that regard. But anytime you're looking at health, you're looking at circadian rhythm. And so I started, I learned, I didn't know this, I learned that if you eat before you go to bed, then your body's not in a state of rest and digest. And, you're digesting your food, and trying to sleep at the same time. Right.
Can you rewind a bit and just explain what, maybe for the listeners, what circadian rhythm is in regards to your sleep?
Yeah. Circadian rhythm it's like the correspondence in the human body, in the brain, to the sun as we are passing around and then responding to its frequencies. And so every 24 hours or so, we experience the rising and setting of the sun, and there are appropriate behaviors based on the frequency of light that we're receiving at that time. And so it's like at 8 a.m, for instance, you started to receive like a boost in your cortisol. It raises your energy. And then in a few hours from now, once the sun starts to set and the UV light disappears, you're going to naturally start to produce less cortisol and then melatonin, which is going to start to relax you a bit. And then after a few hours of that being gone, it's going to make you sleepy. More starts to become released in your bloodstream. So every minute of the day, we are responding in a different way. When we are in sync with the sun and the earth, we respond to its commands, to its signals. And that's what circadian rhythm is just being step in step in this dance with Mother Nature and not trying to override those commands with your own, logical decisions, but really just being in cooperation and in that flow with it. And so that's what sleep is. And following your circadian rhythm for sleep is just honoring those rules and recognizing that no matter how you feel about it, we were designed to sleep at a specific time and wake up at a specific time. And it's okay, I suppose, if you want to contradict that, but there are some, expectancies that you might have. And it's just something to think about if you are not experiencing the best health that you'd like to be, and your lifestyle is opposing the laws of circadian rhythm.
Wow, there's so many questions that I want to ask about that, but I feel like I feel we could talk a lot about just circadian rhythm, right, and all the interruptions that we introduced to our circadian rhythms, like phones, right? And I'm sure that's probably one of the biggest factors what would throw off our circadian rhythms. I mean, especially at night, when we're sitting in bed and we have the phone on the screen and whatever light's putting off, that surely can't be good for you, right?
It's not, and it's become part of just the normal routine, right? To take our phones everywhere, but it's everything. It started with artificial light and prolonging the day with artificial light, and then people's careers shifted, and because things were open later, now we have different expectations for what we can do at a particular time of day, and that that's evolved to computers and entertainment, and then to more specific frequencies of light like LEDs, fluorescent lights, which are even more harmful to circadian rhythm. They enter the brain, tell the brain it's daytime. They hit that same spectrum of light, blue light, that is telling us, instructing us to be awake. And so being awake and being asleep is not designed to be a conscious decision, right? It's just something that happens naturally. And so all of these disturbances, they've caused disturbances in the food that we eat. We now eat food at night when we weren't designed to. And when you look at epigenetics, you understand that the body is only able to receive and digest food that it recognizes as being central to its area, right? We live in the hill country, so if you eat food that was raised here in Lacey, your body's going to have a different experience with that food than if that food came from Laredo, right? All these things make a difference. This is circadian rhythm. You are literally ingesting the sunlight that you are under, right? You're doing that in the form of food. And so now we eat things from parts of the world that don't share the sunlight in our food. And we do it at times of day that are not appropriate, that where our body is not producing the hormones that are appropriate to digest that food. And so all this stuff makes a difference, and then unfortunately, over time, we start to have trouble sleeping, and then we start to write it off to like, I have an active mind, or, these emotions are preventing me from falling asleep. And so that was like the first thing, that was my first big aha when I made these very simple gestures, little routines of, blocking blue light out of my eyes, not eating too late, and just slowing down, like noticing the exit ramp. And I started to notice, okay, I don't have the same beef about some of the problems, like sleep. It wasn't automatic for me. It took a bit. It took a while. But I realized that I wasn't making it easier when I wasn't following the laws of circadian rhythm. And that the problems that I was feeling emotionally, mentally, those blocks, they weren't as severe when I was like acquiescing to what the earth and sun were asking from me.
This is all things that you help, because I guess I should say the name of your business is The Art of Falling Asleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically you coach people through and you, I guess you dissect and try to figure out what some of their, and help them figure out how to sleep better. Is it always the same things that you come across with some of your clients, or I don't know, is that, or it varies from person to person? I'm assuming, because I don't think there's just always one answer, right?
Yeah. No, it's different for every person. However, the problems I help people with have evolved over the years, and as I've evolved, and what I do is, it's kind of turned into me being helping. I'm kind of like the last stop. When I hear from people, it's like they're at their wits' end. They feel like they've tried everything,
including medication.
Yeah. And no, medication never fixes anything for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first started coaching, the people I was helping, like those little habit changes were enough for them. These little shifts in mindset, and some of the perspectives and different insomnia perspectives that guided the subconscious mind to change their perception of their life and the sleep that they were getting. That stuff really made a difference. But it's gotten to a point where I have a deeper understanding of sleep psychology and the resistance that takes place on the way to falling asleep. And so now I'm helping clients more so in a nighttime routine. I've found that anybody who has experienced insomnia long enough has become a sleep expert themselves. And they know a lot of the things that we just talked about with circadian rhythm. And they can come on this podcast and probably do a better job of explaining why circadian rhythm is important. They've tried every biohacking tool. They've tried every diet. They've tried every supplement, and they're exhausted by trying so many different things. And when this is the case, what they're missing is a nighttime routine that prepares their body, but also prepares their mind, and it allows their nervous system, gives their nervous system enough time and reason to be able to go to sleep. And so what I've found is that nothing is as impactful as a nighttime routine that aligns the subconscious mind and the nervous system and the energetic body. And so if you can go through a process that aligns all of that and removes that resistance that's coming from within, because if I'm taking a pill, I'm taking something from the outside to try to resolve something that started on the inside. And so I'm just trying to overpower my sleep. So if you can teach somebody how to resolve the resistance that's coming from within, that will have more influence than whatever new mattress or meditation technique or breath work that you could do. Not that these things don't help, right? But when you understand how to align them in the right order and understand their significance and their role, and how they can affect the subconscious mind, then this really starts to move the needle for people. So that's kind of what my practice has turned into.
Wow.
When you were talking about like a routine, a nighttime routine, all I kept thinking was when you have a baby, everyone stresses to you over and over. Routine. They need a nighttime routine. They need a bedtime routine. Give them a bath, read them a book. All of these things will set them up for sleep. And I was thinking how as adults, we get away from that. So maybe one night we watch TV, or maybe one night we're up all night on our phone, and that sense of nighttime routine that is so important for babies is actually like really important for us too as adults, not just babies. Yeah. Anyway, that was just my thought on what you were saying.
No, it's great. And it reminds me, modeling is I don't know enough people with babies that are, well, I don't know enough people, period, who, let's say, like, live in a cave. But it would be interesting to learn more about the circadian rhythm of babies 100 years ago. Yeah. And, are they just modeling? Are they modeling what we're doing and on a micro level experiencing what we're experiencing? But that reminded me of my friends who had children, but my friends were like chronic non-vegetable eaters, right? And I was always like, especially when I started health coaching, and you like scream from the rooftops, and you're trying to help all your friends, like, oh, did you know that this food does this for you, and such and such, and they always resisted that. And then one day I'm having lunch with them and their kids, and they're like, well, you don't know what they won't eat. They won't touch their vegetables. Like, we try to, we try to trick them into eating more greens, and I'm just laughing. It's like, well, of course they don't, because, they pick things up. Like, they're learning from you. They're modeling this. So it's really, it happens all the time. It was happening this morning. Somebody was asking me for advice on how they could help their kids sleep better. And she was describing the routine that they're going through, and it involved the phone,
So you do adults, and you also offer coaching for kids, or
I don't do kids coaching.
Okay.
Yeah. I maybe one day that there could be, because that's where people will put up with their own insomnia for a really long time. But when the problem is with their children, they'll do anything. They're really inspired, motivated. But the entire landscape of sleep has changed, and it's sort of changed with maybe the generation that came before us. But it really has more dramatically changed in our generation, because I don't know how old you are. I'm 48. I grew up in the 80s. And when I grew up, we had television and incandescent lights. It was that simple. We didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have cell phones, and we still rode our bikes every day until the sun came down, right? We ate, like we didn't have a bunch of junk in our food. We still ate kind of crappy food. And
homemade,
homemade tortillas every single night. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do
Yeah.
when you're from Laredo. But it was okay. I mean, you were able, you were resilient enough because you weren't in this constant toxic soup. And so now it's like this generation coming up, it's more important than ever that they really understand the fundamentals of being a human being and get to the basics and ground, put your feet on the ground barefoot and get that sunlight and play, at least try to match the amount of time you spend outside to the time you're spending inside on the phone. So yeah, it's really important that we remember what it means to be a human. It's just so significant.
Oh, yeah. It's with technology. Technology is such a good and bad thing. And earlier, when you were talking, I was she was reminded of putting babies to sleep routine based off what you were saying. I was thinking, you mentioned something about mattresses, and this is gonna tie into with technology. Now they sell all kinds of new technology mattresses that has this and that, and for your back and springs and cushion and foam and all the newest things. But while you were talking, I was thinking well, what did people do before mattresses? Then they slept fine, right?
Right.
They just slept on the floor.
Right.
And this is something that I always go back to. You've heard me say this ad nauseum, well, what did they do, 50 years ago, they, and fill in the gap, because I bring it up all the time. Well, what did people do back then? And then one of the things that I bought I took the bait on hook, line, and sinker was the new mattress pod, the sleep pod or 8 pod. Is it called? It's one of those mattress covers you put over your bed, and you can adjust the temperature.
Oh,
you get cooler on one side, hotter on the other. There's an app that tracks you in your sleep.
Yeah.
The full work. We kept it for a week and sent it back.
Yeah, and it was
you
was
sent
expensive.
it back because it just didn't help.
We didn't really notice it.
I think I felt like I was sleeping worse whenever we got it, but it was it was expensive, and we thought it was the miracle drug.
Yeah,
and I think it was more so because I get so hot at night and you don't, and so we thought, well, great, we can cool my side. I'll stay cool, and then we sent it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were saying, it helped those getting, the new mattress might help, and whatever, I don't know, buy a pillow for your legs to help, or buy the new My Pillow that you see on TV,
mouth tape, all the things,
all the things. I mean, it's kind of a pretty big business, right?
Yeah. It's turned, well, it always was, but the sleep industry is $1 billion industry. Who knows? I mean, last time I checked, it was $1 billion industry. Maybe it's $1 trillion. I don't know. But what it's doing is placating unbalanced needs from sleepers and not addressing the root cause. And why would it? It's a future $1 trillion industry. So it is not only placating these unbalanced needs, but in the process, it's messing with the psychology of sleep too. And, people, if you're just constantly going through Amazon and trying things to sleep better and nothing's working, it's destroying your sleep confidence. It's literally creating new pathways in your subconscious mind, making you believe that you have a problem, an existential problem, and that you are one of these people that just was not designed to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've kind of just completely, that's kind of who I am, really. It's who I am to begin with, but to be my full authentic self as a coach, a sleep facilitator, I don't shy away from telling people that I'm off grid when it comes to any sleep products. Like, I don't take anything. I just don't. I don't take the bait. And when I do, I vet the bait and make sure, and because there's different situations. For some people, a lot of people, there's magnesium, inositol is another one, glycine. There's some supplements that people can take that aren't necessarily harmful, and it all just depends on everybody's situation, and we make sure that it's actually not negatively affecting their sleep psychology. But what I have discovered is that, and I don't have to be the anomaly, this is what I'm trying to inspire in people, is that you don't have to take anything. And a lot of people don't agree with me, but you really don't have to take anything if you learn how to dissolve the resistance that you're creating within yourself. Because circadian rhythm, there's magnetism that's taking place. That's all around you. We're spiritual beings. And when you are open to that magnetism, all of a sudden your brain is going to start creating those chemicals that you're taking. It's going to create the relaxation that this mattress cover, right, is scientifically proven, right, it's proven to be able to cause this effect. Yes, if you lower the temperature of the body cools down when it falls asleep. So if you induce that by manually lowering the temperature, it's going to create a bit of that cascade. That is true, but it's also true that your body's going to do that naturally, right? And if you join it in that dance, and if your body's naturally cooling down, then don't naturally or unnaturally heat up, right? Like don't try to figure out a math problem at that point. Don't engage your brain. Like cooperate and pay attention to what your body's doing. And if you can get back to that, not only do you not need to take anything, but you start to experience sleep in a way that we've kind of forgotten how to. Where you fall asleep, there's no resistance in your body. So you're not using something from the outside to like arm wrestle yourself to sleep. And then you wake up and it's like, where did I go? What just happened? This isn't like, I don't even know how to describe this feeling. I like it and it feels special. It feels special. It feels really special. So, I've come to realize that having insomnia this day and age is a real gift if you get that message, right? That nothing's working for you because you're supposed to go at this al natural, the way our ancestors slept.
From what I've seen on your podcast and your social media, and kind of like what you just hit on, is you approach sleep from a very like spiritual place, psychological and spiritual. And it's kind of like if you can buy all the things, you can buy all the pills and the mattresses, but if your head is full of stuff, then how are you going to be able to sleep? How are those things really going to be able to work? And I saw you had one podcast episode about forgiveness, and then you had some others about other things that were just kind of letting things go that can actually help you sleep. I would have never put those things together. Like stress, obviously, right? We can wake up from anxiety or stress, but like forgiveness and anger and like all these things, they can actually affect our sleep. Like, I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, it all has an influence. And well, sleep, I have naturally, and thank God, I mean, it's happened, but when you spend enough time committed to something and enough time being extremely curious about the deepest nature of it, as I have with sleep for 8 years now, you start to get downloads. Right? Like you start to learn things that you couldn't have come up with on your own. And it's very obvious. Sleep is the most comprehensive experience of life. Then any little thing that comes into your consciousness is related to sleep. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you're anything that is not making you feel good is related to sleep. And so you start looking at some of the greatest spiritual practices like forgiveness and surrender and self-love, like everything is a factor. So it's like, what are the things that are really causing people to feel stuck? What are the hardest things for people to do? Well, those things are going to have the biggest impact on sleep.
So your emotions have a big play a big factor in how I guess the quality of sleep you get, or if you can sleep. Is that correct?
Yeah.
To say that, which is kind of interesting. But
well, your emotions affect your nervous system, and your nervous system is connected with your subconscious mind. So if you're experiencing emotions that are dysregulating, then the subconscious mind, which is here to keep you safe, thinks that it's not safe to go to sleep. It's not safe to put your guard down. Yeah. So it all, the trigger happens quickly, and you don't realize that it's happening. And maybe, and that's what the art of falling asleep is learning how to trace the trigger and to start from scratch and to know what to do to get in that position where your emotions are there, but they're not stopping you, right? You're in relationship to who you are, and you know how to read your gauges and relate to them, and then in re-influence to get back into that frequency of sleep.
That's good. I know this is a bit maybe controversial as far as...
Yes, I love it. Yes, come at me. I love controversial sleep topics.
You hear people say, well, all you really need is 4 hours of sleep. But, I've also heard the opposite. Like, you need at least a good 8 hours of sleep. Like, does that just depend on who you're asking? Or, what's I guess if 4 hours if you just need to survive, or 8 if you want to feel good, or what's the norm, I guess?
Yeah, I love the question so much. You have no idea, because this is the podcast episode that I was planning to record tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So if you I guess if folks wanted to listen to, you don't have to go into detail, because people can listen to your podcast if you want to talk more about this. But I guess without going into too much detail, if you just kind of...
Are you taking the mic away from me?
No. Well, I just don't want to ruin your...
Oh, no. I don't,
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm eager to talk about it now,
Okay.
but I'll try to simplify it. But yes, so the message that came over, the download, I guess, that came over me was quality over quantity. Right. I'd rather have 4 hours of quality sleep than 8 hours of like low quality sleep. And when I started doing a little bit of research, I'm like, what it's always quality over quantity, right? And like what in the world would somebody rather have more of than a higher quality of that thing? And so I did some searching, and it was like the top thing was like toilet paper, right? It's like in the apocalypse or something like that. Like it doesn't matter the quality, just have enough. I'm like, all right, fair.
Yeah.
But
hence 2020.
Yes, exactly. No, exactly. And then so I found this article by Gary V. You know who Gary V is? And he's an intense dude who's like, he commands respect with his opinions. And he said he'll take quantity every single time because quantity is objective, right? And it's easy to, he's not just going to sign up for quality because quality is subjective. Like everybody has a different opinion. So you could get 4 hours of sleep. I could get 4 hours of sleep. I am probably in this arena. I'm a little bit more skilled than you in turning those 4 hours into a higher quality of sleep because I know how to communicate with the subconscious mind and, make sure it's not focusing on how little sleep it got, so on and so forth. So, but what I realized, using that argument, turning that to sleep, 8 hours is objective, and I'll take quantity. You can't argue 8 hours is 8 hours, but I personally would rather have 4 hours of quality sleep than 8 hours of disconnected sleep. But that's sort of like the uphill battle that, me, as far as like my perspective on sleep is facing, because people have had it drilled into their head from the very beginning that you got to get your 8 hours. And so many would rather take a pill to get a disconnected 8 hours of sleep, right? Than get 4 hours of sleep, let's say naturally, or the way that I teach people to get that sleep, which is part of what goes into it being a higher quality. And so in other words, 8 hours of sleep has now become subjective, right? It's no longer, I want 8 hours because of all these things that it's going to do for my brain and body. It's more like, I want 8 hours because it's called 8 hours. And so to prove this, right, like this is what happens all the time with, like, one of the biggest problems that I help people with is waking up in the middle of the night and then not being able to fall back to sleep. Right. And so what happens, and I've been there, is that you wake up, it's dark, and you're like, crap. Like the internal dialogue goes, and you're like, and you have no idea what time it is, right? And you don't want to look at the clock. You're fighting that. So you like take a few breaths, you fight that, but you're like, but you look. And why do you look when you look? Because you're hoping it's like 5:42. Yeah. It's like, however, the latest it could be where it's still dark. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so here's this moment where you're completely vulnerable to a reading of a time, which is now an illusion, right? And with the exact same feeling in your body, it could say 6 o'clock and you'd be like, yes, thank God, right? And then you immediately feel the sensation of having slept 8 hours, right? Or you look at the clock and it's 2:32 and you're like, damn. What am I going to do now? And you're experiencing scarcity, right? And so 8 hours has become subjective, right? And they'll never do this experiment, but I guarantee you could get a placebo group and give them 4 hours of sleep, but show the clock and show that they got 8, right? And you'll see that they're going to have a completely different experience of the world.
Wow.
Now, with all that said, why not have like quantity and quality, right? There's nothing stopping you from getting both.
Yeah.
but absolutely, yeah, it's controversial. And there is, I don't know how else to explain it other than you become the experiment, you become the group, the control group, right? Like you are the experiment where until you've actually gone to, and I'm sure it sounds like both of you sleep well, right? Mm-hmm. And it also sounds like perhaps your body just tells you to go to sleep. You don't necessarily have to be in charge of your own dissension, right? Your battery just kind of like dwindles, and then you go to sleep. So you're in this a category of people who a lot of people dislike, just because you don't experience a very frustrating problem. Now, with that said, it's very likely that you both sleep under tension. Because if you cook dinner, wash dishes, watch television without protecting your eyes, and you were, it was a day off or something like that, you're inside all day, you're still able to sleep, but there wasn't this like slow descension, this slow ramp into sleep the way a cave person 1,000 or 10,000, 100,000 years ago may have experienced, right? So I can pretty much guarantee you that you fell asleep under tension. So maybe there's you had a problem, a situation with plumbing in one of the cabins, right? And it wasn't fully resolved. And it was on your mind, but not so present that your sleep drive didn't overtake you anyway. Right. So if you just multiply that, let's say there's 20 little things on your mind, and a lot of people, their drive to sleep is going to send them to sleep anyway. Now, if you're going to sleep anyway, what if you went through a process of actually resolving all of these little 20 problems in your mind, and then coming to a place where you're feeling grounded because you're like, you know what, there is a plumbing problem, but we have so-and-so fixing that, or I'm going to fix that in the morning, and it's very minor. So we can get rid of that. Like we are cool there, right? And if you did that through every single any emotion that you're experiencing, all the way down to like the most triggering things going on in your life. Now all of a sudden, you didn't have a sleep problem before, right? But what is the impact of what you just did? Well, now your nervous system feels really good. It feels really safe. You have grounded your root chakra, and that energy has traveled up into the spiritual chakras. Your heart and your brain are communicating. Your body's experiencing this togetherness, this synchronicity that maybe it's never experienced, right? And then you go to sleep, your crown chakra is wide open, and you have these amazing dreams, and they feel special, right? And you wake up. That is the gift of having insomnia, is that you, to get back to sleep, it's not going to be the supplement. It's not going to be the mattress. It's going to be learning how to resolve all these little minor problems that you're experiencing. And you're not going to, you may not be able, that may not be your mission. Like, you're here, you're doing wonderful things, right? But if somebody has insomnia, it may be their mission to sleep that way, right? Because there's some gifts that are waiting for them when they sleep. So I may have gone off on a tangent there. I don't remember the original question. I kind of do, but like quality over quantity. Yeah. So I'd rather sleep 4 hours by means of how I just described, resolving all the tension in my body and falling asleep that way, than get 8 where I fell asleep to YouTube
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if this, I think this is kind of related to what you were just saying, but one of the things that sometimes both of us do, because we obviously live together, we're married, we work together, our businesses together.
I love that, by the
And
way.
there's,
No, that's the way it should be.
yeah, it's awesome sometimes and hard sometimes. And one of the ways that it can be hard is that there's times, at night that he or I, our brains are thinking and going. And there's times, for him, example, he'll be like, oh, I think we should do this and that. And he's having like this creative spurt and it's kind of before bed. And I don't want to start thinking creatively or about work because I know I'm going to have trouble going to sleep. Because once my mind gears up again and starts working, I'm going to have trouble sleeping. I want to kind of shut it down, shut it off. And I don't want to think about business work stuff because that could keep me up. And hey, sorry, Luna's pushing me out of the chair. But yeah, that something you said kind of reminded me of that when you were talking about kind of working through the stuff in your head, the plumber and the plumber's got this under control, kind of decompressing almost so that you can get the best sleep possible. Yeah.
Yeah. It used to plague me so much back when I wrote music. I would become creative at night, right? I'm just like, I would have nothing during the day. I was just toast. And then like bedtime comes around or midnight, 3 a.m, and I'm just like, ooh, oh.
All the ideas.
And, but you try to be disciplined enough and go through those motions of like, all right, I should go to sleep now. But what I would do is I'd get a song stuck in my head and then I just could not get it out, right? Like a new, fresh melody. And it's just like, it becomes an addiction. And then you start like trying to sing other annoying songs, like like a Friends theme song. And like, how do I get this out? But what I've learned over the years is that, what you do is like, as a sleeper, as somebody who's trying to figure out how to solve that problem, you tippy toe your way to sleep, and you're like, no, like don't show me that, and don't bring that up, and I can't think that thought, right? Like don't disturb. And so you're walking on eggshells in order to fall asleep. But what I've learned is more helpful is what I call grounding the subconscious mind. And so whenever your mind isn't grounded, because we have like these at least two minds. And one of them is protecting you. One of them is paying attention to everything that happens so it can keep you safe. And then you have the conscious mind that's like, I want to go to sleep. And so if the subconscious mind has different ideas because it thinks it's not safe for you to go to sleep, if it doesn't think it's safe for you to go to sleep, then it's gonna fall for all the shiny low-hanging fruit, right? It's gonna be distracted by anything. And so somebody who's easily distracted by thoughts or songs on the way to sleep is really just experiencing an ungrounded subconscious mind. It's a subconscious mind that has not received the instruction from the conscious mind, from you, your highest self, that says, you know what? We are like, sleep is the most important thing for us tonight. We are committed to sleep. And as your leader, right? As the person that you are here to protect, I am calling in sleep. That is how you're going to protect me tonight, is by focusing, right, on the act of sleep. And so I teach them a process in order to make this like conversation, this concept, take it from the head to the body. We make it somatic. But once you do that, all of a sudden that same little song that's just like orbiting around your head, it's like, it's just there. And it's not taking over anything, because now when you ground your mind, your inclination there is to release. So that's like the second step in the method that I teach is now you can go through some yoga and breathing exercises and some stretching and whatnot. And this is going to release, it's going to unlock all of the energy that your subconscious mind was otherwise focused on. And so if it was that like super catchy poppy song, then all of that energy is liberated. And now when you shake your body and you do some breath work, it's just gone. It's gone. It leaves. So the nice thing about grounding your subconscious mind is like, he could say like, oh, our occupancy for fall is really not what it was last year. He could wake you up in the middle of the night and say that. And you could be like, honey, like go to sleep, ground your subconscious mind, right? Like it doesn't enter. And so it creates like a nice boundary because now you're in the frequency of sleep, not the frequency of your day.
Wow. That's, I think that's some helpful insight right there for us. Cause I couldn't tell you how many times it's like at least once or twice a week. I'm like before bed thinking mine's going and have a new idea or, it's, maybe we should try this or did you fix that? Or, it just, it infinite of amount of different things that we can be talking about in the middle of the night or right before bedtime that we probably shouldn't. And, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, I have not explored this enough, but with the work I'm doing, what I'm realizing now is that people like yourselves are in a very special position. When you do everything together, without realizing it, you're experiencing consciousness together. So it's like you have a joint subconscious mind. You have a joint conscious mind because you're sharing a vision. You have a very specific vision. Like that's probably the most powerful thing about your relationship is you want the exact same things and you have the same motivation, right? For that. And you're living, look at that. You're living your dream, right? So you're experiencing consciousness together, but at the same time, you're two different people. So that's important. But you could ground your minds together. Right? Like you could actually, whenever you two might be experiencing any kind of conflict, it's no different than the conflict that I experience in my own head, right? When I'm feeling anxious or depressed. And what I do is I go through the grounding process, right? Like, before I stepped into your house, I'm like, well, why are you here? Right? Like I go through this process of settling the dissonance between my conscious mind and my subconscious mind. And couples, especially couples who do everything together, and this is why one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of that, they have this opportunity to realize like it's not just you and her, it's you and your subconscious mind and her. There's four of you in this picture, right? And when you start to learn that whenever you're experiencing any kind of dissonance, any kind of conflict, it's because there's four of you and you only think that there's two of you, right? and so when this is alignment, this is what people refer to when they talk about alignment. And so you have the opportunity to be in alignment. We can't expect perfection, but when you experience daily and nightly alignment, then he's not going to bring up, occupancy issues at 3 a.m. Not that he does that, right? But you're very clear on what the point of that time of day is. You're living in concept together.
That's good. That's good. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. And the good point is a good thought to linger on and pause. And I feel like we can there's so much to talk about, and there's so much that I want to ask. And, the more you talk, the more questions I have. But I know, I want to be respectful of your time. And this will be easily 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast.
And I tend to, I tend to push those limits just because, I don't know, I can I get excited and I can be a contrarian with some of the, sleep, I guess approaches, the sleep consensus. And yeah, so I tend to like make these podcasts a little bit longer. So thank you and sorry.
We love it. We love it. We have no issue here at all.
I just wish I could have been more of an active participant. Luna had other plans for me today.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
You said kind of off the topic, but and maybe I'll save it for the next. I'll save it for the next time.
Man, okay.
I'll save it for the next time because I'd be interested to kind of go into next.
Let's do a part 2.
Yeah,
we'll do a part 2.
So if anyone maybe want to, do you do consulting? You do consulting?
Yeah.
So someone wants to consult or hire you or get more information. The name of your website is
theartoffallingasleep.com.
Is there, I guess on the website, it'll say best how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's a way to contact me through the website. I'm also on Facebook as Derek Lacey, DEREK LACEY. And on Instagram, it's at the art of falling asleep. That's my handle. So you can get a hold of me on any of those platforms. And I offer a free initial consultation just to see if the approach that we use is appropriate for that person. It's not for everybody. And I'm always very clear it's always very obvious when it is for somebody, because it's an all-in thing. It's physical and it's spiritual, and it's conceptual and it's somatic, and it's working with all of these principles and turning them into actions, right? So it's we don't just kind of pick apart and say like, hey, try this tonight, do this cycle of breathing, and it's much deeper. It's much deeper than that. And they will go through a process that they will be able to turn around and teach to somebody and really learn it in unconscious parts of their body, so that their relationship to sleep is forever changed, right? It's not it's an intuitive approach.
That's good. You also have podcasts. So people can, I think I saw on your website, correct, that they can listen to it there. Is it?
Yeah, I have a link, a button on the website, and I'm also, it's the Art of Falling Asleep podcast. So I'm on Spotify and Apple and Stitcher. I don't know, all the things.
Wherever you find podcasts.
Wherever you find podcasts.
Hey,
yeah.
We certainly appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. This is fun.
And sorry we didn't mean. I don't know. I just assumed people know that they're going to be coming, and I should have mentioned it before.
Well, I mean, it worked out. Yeah, it worked out beautifully, and the drive over here is nice, and it's nice to I haven't been here before, and we're neighbors, so it should. This is the way it should happen.
Yeah,
it's like we could do it on Zoom, but we live next to each other.
Yeah,
right, and it's a much. And I've done I don't know if I've done a couple of podcasts like in person. It's just been a really long time. It's a completely different experience when you can look at each other in the eye and share the space. So yeah, I really this has been exciting for me.
Well, thank you. And this was definitely one of the ones that we are going to enjoy for a long time.
Thanks.
And it's been great having you here. We've talked about it for a long time, or since we've I guess first met. I mean, we haven't really had a chance to hang out much, but
it's been in the making for a bit. Yeah, so
I'm
it's
glad
nice
we
to.
finally got it done.
Thanks, Jada, for introducing us.
Yeah, thank you, Jada.
Thank you, Jade.
Well, all right, folks. Thank you, and thanks, Derek, for showing up today, and thank y'all for tuning in and watching.
Yeah, thank you, and I can't wait to see what's for dinner.
Yeah.
Is that part of the? Is that part of it?
Yeah, we get.
I was just assuming.
Yeah, let's do it. Hasta luego, y'all.
Bye.